Hazel Carr never imagined that helping an elegant elderly woman carry her shopping bags would change her life forever, much less that this same woman would be the mother of the most arrogant and irresistible man she had ever encountered. But sometimes fate has plans that even the most skeptical cannot predict. And on that sunny Saturday in San Diego, while Hazel walked along the waterfront after another day working at the extreme sports equipment company, she had no idea she was about to become the center of a story that would challenge everything she believed about love and social differences. The woman must have been around 60, with impeccably styled silver hair and clothes that screamed sophistication. She stood in front of a department store, looking desperately at 5 shopping bags at her feet and the phone she had just hung up. "My driver had an emergency," she murmured, more to herself than to anyone specific. Hazel stopped instinctively. Scout, her medium-sized mixed-breed dog, who religiously accompanied her everywhere, sniffed the air and sat beside her, as if he too sensed something important was about to happen. "Do you need help, Mom?" asked Hazel, approaching with a genuine smile. The woman looked up and for a moment seemed surprised. It wasn't common, Hazel thought, for people like her to offer help to people like this lady. But Hazel had been raised by her grandmother with solid values. Kindness has no social class. "That would be very kind of you, dear. I need to get to the Harbor Club, but these bags are incredibly heavy." Hazel knew the place. It was one of San Diego's most luxurious hotels, the type of establishment she would never set foot in, if not to deliver sports equipment to adventurous guests. Therefore, she didn't hesitate to pick up 3 of the 5 bags. "It's not far from here. Shall we walk?" During the journey, the lady introduced herself as Isabella Bird and began to chat naturally, as if she had known Hazel for years. She talked about the weather, about how San Diego had grown, about her son who was always traveling for business. Hazel responded with her characteristic spontaneity, talking about her work, about Scout, about the grandmother who had raised her. "You work with extreme sports?" asked Isabella, her eyes sparkling with interest. "Yes, at an equipment rental company. Surfing, paragliding, hang gliding. It's fun work, but what I really want is to have my own coffee shop someday." "What a beautiful dream!" exclaimed Isabella, and Hazel noticed the enthusiasm was genuine. "Do you like aviation?" "I've never had the opportunity to try it, but I've always found it fascinating." "Then you must come to the flight simulation event we're organizing at the hotel next week. It's for aviation enthusiasts, but there are always beginners." Hazel laughed. "I don't know if it'd be welcome at an event like that. It must be for people with a lot of money." "Nonsense. It's about passion for aviation, not bank accounts." When they arrived at the hotel, Hazel was impressed by the imposing nature of the place, but Isabella invited her in for coffee. Hazel hesitated. Scout couldn't enter. She was wearing simple work clothes, and frankly, she felt out of place. "Another day, perhaps. I need to get home." "Then at least give me your phone number. I want to formally invite you to the event." Hazel gave her number, half not believing the woman would actually call. She said goodbye with a wave, Scout trotting beside her, and returned to her neighborhood in the outskirts of the city, where her grandmother was waiting with dinner ready and 1,000 questions about her day. But what Hazel didn't know was that Isabella Bird wasn't just an elegant lady. She was the CFO of one of the country's largest hotel chains, mother of Ian Bird, San Diego's most coveted and complicated heir. And at that exact moment, while Hazel was having dinner with her grandmother in their simple home, Isabella was telling her family about the special young woman she had met. "You all need to meet her," said Isabella during dinner in the hotel's penthouse where the family resided. "She's different from all the women you've brought here." Ian, 32 years old, just raised an ironic eyebrow. He was used to his mother's social projects and her constant attempts to introduce him to family girls. Since Veronica Costa had publicly betrayed him 6 months earlier, he was even more skeptical about feminine intentions. "Mom, you know I'm not interested in meeting anyone." "It's not about that, Ian. It's about meeting authentic people. Caroline, his 29-year-old sister and director of tourism programming for the group, laughed. Ian is allergic to authenticity. He prefers gold diggers. Very funny, Carol, retorted Ian, but deep down he knew she was right. Since taking his position in the family group, or rather, since deciding not to take any position and live as an eternal heir on vacation, he had surrounded himself with people who only approached him for money and status. It was safer that way, less complicated. Therefore, when a week later Hazel actually showed up at the flight simulation event, Ian was completely unprepared for the impact she would have on his carefully shielded life. Hazel arrived at the flight simulation event feeling like a fish out of water, but determined not to show nervousness. She had spent the entire week thinking about whether she should go or not. Her grandmother, of course, insisted she should go. "Opportunities like this don't come every day, sweetheart, and you've always dreamed of flying." It was true. Since childhood, Hazel had been mesmerized watching planes cutting through San Diego's sky. So there she was, wearing her best casual outfit, dark jeans and a simple white blouse, in the Harbor Club's event hall, surrounded by people who clearly belonged to a very different world from hers. The environment was impeccably decorated with state-of-the-art flight simulators, historical aircraft models, and a breathtaking view of the California coast through floor-to-ceiling windows. Hazel was admiring a Boeing 737 simulator when she heard a masculine voice behind her. "First time?" She turned around and almost choked. The man in front of her was tall, dark-haired, with grey-green eyes, and a smile that definitely should come with a danger warning. He wore a navy blue shirt that highlighted his tanned skin and khaki pants that seemed to be custom-made. He was the kind of handsome that made women trip over their own tongues. Hazel, however, wasn't just any woman. "What if it is?" she responded, raising her chin in a mixture of defiance and curiosity. Ian blinked, surprised. He was used to more submissive reactions. Women who laughed at his comments even when they weren't funny, who agreed with everything he said, who flirted shamelessly. But this girl looked at him as if he were just an ordinary man. It was disconcerting and, strangely, attractive. "Then you're going to love the experience. Flight simulation is addictive. You talk like you're a pilot." "I have a license, but I'm more of an enthusiast than a professional." Hazel nodded, turning her attention back to the equipment. Ian waited for her to ask about his license, about how many planes he owned, about where he had learned to fly. The questions they all asked. But she just commented, "It must be incredible to see the world from above, to have that feeling of absolute freedom." "That's exactly it." Ian approached, genuinely interested in the conversation. "Do you work in the field?" "I work with sports equipment, paragliding, hang gliding, those things." "It's not exactly aviation, but it has to do with flying." "Sports equipment," repeated Ian, and Hazel caught a different tone in his voice. "Interesting." At that moment, Hazel felt someone touching her shoulder. It was Isabella, extremely elegant in a blue silk dress. "Hazel, dear, I'm so glad you came." Isabella hugged her warmly before turning to Ian. "Son, this is the Hazel I told you about. Hazel, this is my son Ian." The world stopped for 2 long seconds. Ian looked at Hazel with an expression she couldn't completely decipher, but which definitely included surprise and something that could be disappointment. Hazel, for her part, felt like she had been punched in the stomach. Son. That man was Isabella Bird's son, which meant he was... "A pleasure to meet you," said Ian, and his voice had changed completely, become more formal, more distant. "My mother spoke a lot about you." "I imagine so," replied Hazel, and Ian caught a hint of sarcasm in her voice. Isabella, apparently oblivious to the tension that had settled between them, continued talking animatedly about how special Hazel was, how she had helped her without asking for anything in return, how determined and authentic she was. With each word, Ian felt more skeptical, and Hazel more embarrassed. "Well," said Hazel finally, "I think you'll try one of the simulators." "Great idea!" exclaimed Isabella. "Ian, why don't you show her how it works?" "I'm sure she can figure it out on her own," responded Ian coldly. Hazel felt the change in his behavior like a slap in the face. During the first few minutes of conversation, he had been warm, interested. Now, after discovering who she was, or rather who she wasn't, he treated her as if she were an opportunist. "You're right," she said, looking directly into his eyes. "I'm very good at figuring things out on my own, especially when people show who they really are." Ian felt the comment like a precise dart, but before he could respond, Hazel had already headed to one of the simulators, leaving him standing there with his mother, who was looking at him with an expression of clear disapproval. "What rudeness was that, Ian? Mum, you know very well what type of woman usually approaches our family." "I do know, and Hazel is nothing like them." Ian watched Hazel adjust the simulator controls with the help of an instructor. She was concentrated, asking intelligent questions, clearly fascinated by the experience. When she managed to make a perfect takeoff in the simulator, her face lit up with such genuine joy that for a moment Ian felt his resistance waver. But then he remembered Veronica, all the others, how good they were at acting when they wanted something. Hazel spent the next hour trying different simulators, talking with other participants, and clearly having fun. She completely avoided Ian, but he couldn't stop watching her. There was something about her that intrigued him. The way she talked to an elderly gentleman who clearly didn't have much money, with the same attention she gave to the professional pilot who was explaining about turbulence. The way she laughed, not that studied laugh he was used to hearing, but a spontaneous and contagious belly laugh. When the event was ending, Ian approached her again. He didn't quite know why. "So, did you enjoy the experience?" Hazel looked at him with those direct and honest brown eyes. "I loved it. Your mother was right. It's fascinating." She paused. "Thank her for me. You're not going to say goodbye to her personally." "I think I've caused enough embarrassment for today." "Embarrassment?" Hazel laughed, but there was no humor in the laugh. "Look, I know exactly what you thought when you found out who I am. Or rather, what I'm not. The poor girl that rich mummy brought as a social project. The opportunist who's trying to get close to the family." She picked up her simple purse. "You can rest easy. I have no interest in your world or its complications." Ian was speechless for a moment. It was exactly what he had thought, but hearing it so directly made him feel small. "I didn't say that. You didn't need to. It's written all over your face since you found out I'm your mother's protégé." Hazel headed for the exit, but Ian followed her. "Where are you going?" "Home. I need to think." "Hazel, don't leave like this. Let's talk about this." "Talk about what?" "About how you treated me like trash as soon as you found out I'm not from your social circle. That's not being hasty. It's being prejudiced." The truth hurt more than Ian would like to admit, but before he could respond, Hazel had already left the hotel, leaving him there alone with the uncomfortable feeling that he had lost something important, something he might not be able to recover. 3 weeks had passed since the flight simulation event, and Ian discovered he couldn't get Hazel out of his head. It was irritating. He, who had always easily controlled his emotions, found himself thinking about those defiant brown eyes, that genuine laugh, the way she had confronted him without fear. "You look terrible," observed Caroline during breakfast. "Since that event you've been walking around like a ghost." "I don't know what you're talking about." "It's about Hazel, isn't it?" Ian almost choked on his coffee. "How do you know about Hazel?" "Because Mom hasn't talked about anything else for 3 weeks. And because I saw her at the event and noticed how you kept looking at her." Ian sighed. There was no point denying it to Caroline. "She's different from the others, isn't she?" continued Caroline. "That's why you got scared. You're so used to gold-digging women that when an authentic one appears, you don't know how to handle it." Before Ian could respond, his phone rang. It was his father, Michael Bird, CEO of the group. "Son, I need you to go to Extreme Adventure Company today. They're providing equipment for our new extreme sports tourism package." When he hung up, Caroline was looking at him with a mischievous smile. "How lucky for you. Hazel works at a sports equipment company, doesn't she?" Ian's heart accelerated, but he tried to maintain composure. "So what? Maybe it's an opportunity to redeem yourself. Ian spent the entire morning trying to convince himself he wasn't anxious to see Hazel again. He arrived at the company 20 minutes early. Extreme Adventure was a simple but well-organized establishment, with equipment on display and photos of extreme activities on the walls. "Mr. Bird, welcome. I'm Robert, owner of Extreme Adventure. Hazel, our flight equipment specialist, is organizing everything for the presentation." A few minutes later, Hazel came out of a room carrying documents. When she saw him, she stopped dead. "Hello, Hazel," said Ian, trying to keep his voice casual. "Mr. Bird," she responded formally. During the presentation, Hazel spoke professionally about paragliders and equipment. She was clearly an expert, speaking with passion and knowledge. "Do you give lessons?" asked Ian. "I do." Hazel looked at him directly. "Why? Are you interested in learning?" "Maybe. When would it be possible?" "Tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock. The winds are better early, but if it's too early for you, it's not. You'll be here." The next day, Hazel took him to a less crowded beach. She became patient and didactic. "The first rule of free flight," she said, "is to respect nature. You don't control the wind. You dance with it." The first attempt was disastrous. Ian got tangled in the equipment and fell in the sand. Hazel laughed. "Very elegant," she commented. On the 5th try, he stayed in the air for a few seconds. The sensation was primitive, connected with the elements. "How do you feel?" shouted Hazel. "Free!" he shouted back, euphoric. When they were putting away the equipment, Ian found courage to speak. "Hazel, about that night at the hotel, I was an idiot." "You were, but I want you to know I was wrong. You're different, real, authentic. Why does that matter to you?" It was the question Ian had been trying to answer for himself for 3 weeks. "Because you made me feel something real for the first time in a long time, and that scared me. Ian, our worlds are completely different. Then maybe it's time we learned about each other's worlds." At that moment, Hazel's phone rang. "Grandma, what happened?" "Calm down. I'm coming home right now. I need to go. My grandmother isn't feeling well." "I'll drive you," offered Ian immediately. During the journey, Hazel was worried. When they arrived at the simple house, she got out quickly. "If you need anything at all, call me," said Ian. And it was then that he realized he was completely in love with a woman who had every reason in the world not to trust him. Hazel's grandmother had had a hypertension crisis, but fortunately nothing serious. Even so, Hazel spent the next few days taking care of her, valuing even more the simplicity of her life. There were no servants or private doctors, but there was genuine love. "You're different," observed Grandma Rose on the 3rd day. "Thoughtful, worried about something beyond my blood pressure." Hazel sighed. It was impossible to hide anything from Grandma Rose. "I met a man." "Ah," Grandma Rose's eyes sparkled. "And what's the problem? Has complicated?" "They all are, sweetheart. The question is whether the complication is worth it." Before Hazel could respond, the doorbell rang. She went to answer and almost fell backward, seeing Ian with a bouquet of flowers. "Hi," he said, somewhat awkwardly. "I came to see how your grandmother is doing." "How did you get my address?" "I asked Robert at the company." Ian hesitated. "Was that too invasive?" "No, come in, I'm just surprised." Ian entered the small and cozy house. Everything was impeccably clean, with simple but well-cared-for furniture, plants in every corner, and family photos on the walls. "What a welcoming home," he commented, genuinely impressed. Grandma Rose studied Ian with that penetrating look grandmothers have. "The complicated one." "Grandma!" Hazel turned red. Ian laughed. "So she told you I'm complicated." "She didn't tell me anything." "I have eyes in my head." Grandma Rose accepted the flowers with a smile. "But you have a sincere smile." During the visit, Ian talked with Grandma Rose about her life and the neighborhood. Hazel watched, fascinated, as he showed genuine interest. "Your grandmother is incredible," he said when they went out to the porch. "She's the most important person in my life." "And you? What's your family like?" "Complicated, as I said. My parents are great people, but our dynamic is different from yours. More formal, I'd say. My family works more like a company than like this." He gestured toward the cozy house. Do you miss that? This intimacy? I always did, but never knew that's what was missing until I came here. Why have you never married someone like you? Beautiful, intelligent, caring. You must have suitors lining up. Hazel laughed. You clearly don't know my social life, which is practically non-existent. By circumstance and by choice. I grew up taking care of Grandma, working, studying, and when I had free time, I discovered that men either wanted to change me or couldn't accept my independence. Ian felt a pang of guilt. Hadn't he himself judged Hazel by her background? And you? Why have you never married? Because all the women I've met wanted my money, not me. All of them? All of them. Ian looked at her. Until now. Hazel's heart accelerated, but before she could respond, Grandma Rose appeared on the porch. Ian, don't you want to stay for lunch? I made lasagna. During lunch, Ian discovered a side of life he had never experienced. The conversation flowed naturally. Grandma Rose told stories about the neighborhood. Hazel laughed in that spontaneous way that left him mesmerized. It was simple, warm, real. Your grandmother cooks better than any chef I've ever known, said Ian, while helping Hazel wash dishes. She's my best friend, said Hazel, drying a plate. She sacrificed a lot for me. And your parents? They live in the countryside. They're farmers. Grandma thought I'd have more opportunities here in the city. Your coffee shop. Yes, it might seem silly to you, but it's my dream. It doesn't seem silly. It seems brave. Having a dream and fighting for it. Not everyone has that courage. At that moment, Ian's phone rang. He answered, but Hazel noticed his expression change during the conversation. What was it? She asked when he hung up. Veronica. Who's Veronica? My ex-girlfriend. She found out I'm seeing someone. Veronica has an impressive information network, and she doesn't accept that our relationship is over. What kind of person is she? The kind you won't want to meet. At that moment, Hazel's phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, Hazel Carr? The voice on the other end was feminine, educated, but with an icy tone. Yes, who's speaking? Veronica Costa, Ian's girlfriend. I think we need to talk. Hazel looked at Ian, who had gone pale. Ex-girlfriend, corrected Hazel. And no, we don't need to talk. Oh dear, you don't understand the situation. Ian and I have history. You're just a temporary distraction. If you have history, talk to each other. It has nothing to do with me. It does. Because you're deluding yourself if you think a bird will get seriously involved with a person like you. The pause before person was deliberately offensive. Hazel felt anger rising but kept her voice calm. A person like me? You know very well what I'm talking about. You're not from the same world. And when he gets tired of the novelty, he'll return to where he belongs. You know what, Veronica? You might be right. Maybe our worlds are different, but at least in my world, people have dignity. Hazel hung up the phone. Ian was watching her with an expression of concern and admiration. What did she say? Nothing I didn't already know. Hazel leaned against the kitchen sink. That we're from different worlds, that you'll get tired of me, that I'm a temporary distraction. Hazel, the question is she right? Ian approached. About which part? Any part. About us being from different worlds? Yes, we are. About me getting tired of you? Impossible. About you being a distraction? You're everything but a distraction. Hazel looked into his eyes, searching for signs of lies, but found only sincerity. Ian, I need you to understand something. I won't compete for you with anyone. I won't fight for your attention. If you want to be with me, it's your choice. If you don't, that's also your choice. I want to. Even knowing this will complicate your life, especially because of that. Hazel laughed, and the tension partially dissipated. You're crazy! Completely. Ian moved closer. Can I kiss you? My grandmother is right there in the living room. Then let's go to the porch. They went out to the small porch again. The afternoon sun created a golden light, and Hazel had never felt as beautiful as she did in that moment. When he kissed her, it was different from any kiss she had ever received. It was soft and urgent at the same time, full of promises and unformulated questions. When they separated, Ian rested his forehead against hers. There. Now there's no going back? Why not? Because now I know what it's like to kiss you, and I'll want to do that for the rest of my life." Hazel laughed, but her heart was racing. "You speak very well for an irresponsible playboy. The only thing you should believe is what you feel when you're with me. And what do you think I feel? The same thing I do. That this is real, that it's scary, and that it's worth any complication." At that moment, they heard the sound of a car stopping in front of the house. Hazel peeked and saw a black BMW, completely out of place on the simple street. "Veronica," murmured Ian. A tall, blonde, impeccably dressed woman got out of the car. She was beautiful in a cold, calculated way. She walked toward the house with the confidence of someone used to getting everything she wanted. "She came here?" Hazel couldn't believe it. "Veronica doesn't accept no for an answer." "Well, then she'll have to learn." Hazel headed to the front door, and Ian followed her. When they opened it, Veronica was standing outside, smiling in a way that didn't reach her eyes. "Ian, darling, what a quaint place." Her gaze swept the street and house with poorly disguised disdain. "Veronica, what are you doing here?" "I came to get you, obviously." She looked at Hazel as if she were an insect. "You must be the girl. Hazel. And you're in my home. What a cozy home." The tone was sweet but poisonous. "Ian, you know you need to come back. Your parents are worried." "My parents know where I am." "Do they know you're playing here?" The word playing was pronounced with such disdain that Hazel wanted to slam the door in her face. "I'm not playing," said Ian firmly, "and am not going anywhere." Veronica laughed, a crystalline and false sound. "Oh, Ian, you've always been romantic, but you need to be realistic." She turned to Hazel. "Dear, you seem like an intelligent young woman. Surely you understand this is temporary." "The only thing temporary here is your presence in my home," replied Hazel. "My, what a temperament." Veronica smiled maliciously. "Ian always liked women with spirit, but in the end, he always comes home." "Veronica, enough." Ian's voice was dangerously low. "You have no right to come here and disturb Hazel." "Disturb? I'm just being realistic. Do you really think this will work? A bird and a sports equipment company employee." "Be careful what you're going to say," warned Ian. "The only reality here," said Hazel, surprising everyone with her calm, "is that you can't accept that he doesn't want you anymore." Veronica paled slightly, but maintained her smile. "Well, see," she turned to Ian. "When you get tired of this experience, he'll be waiting." Veronica returned to the car, but before getting in, she turned once more. "Oh, Hazel, just so you know, I have a lot of power in this city, and I don't like it when someone plays with what's mine." "Hair's not yours," replied Hazel, but Veronica had already gotten in the car and driven away. Ian ran his hand through his hair, visibly disturbed. "Hazel, I'm so sorry. She had no right." "It's okay." "No, it's not. She came to your house, threatened you." "Ian," Hazel touched his face, "I'm not afraid of her." "You should be. Veronica is dangerous when she wants something." "And what does she want?" "For you to get out of my life." "Because Veronica always assumed we were going to get married. Our families have been friends for generations. Everyone expected us to end up together. And you didn't because I discovered who she really is. Manipulative, cruel to those she considers inferior, a gold digger despite having her own money." Ian looked at Hazel. "The opposite of you. Then why does she still think you'll end up together?" "Because she doesn't accept that there are women I might prefer to her." Hazel processed the information. "This means our situation is going to be complicated." "Probably." "And you still want to try?" Ian pulled her into his arms. "Hazel, I already told you. You're worth any complication." But while they kissed again on the porch of the simple house, neither of them had any idea how far Veronica was willing to go to separate them. On the following Monday, Hazel arrived at work to find Robert with a worried expression. "Hazel, we need to talk." They went to his office, and Hazel felt a knot in her stomach. Robert rarely called her for serious conversations. "We received a call this morning," he began, "from the city. It seems someone made an anonymous complaint about our licenses." Complaint? What kind of complaint? They alleged that our flight equipment isn't properly documented, that we're operating irregularly. Hazel's eyes widened. But that's not true. All our licenses are up to date. I check them monthly myself. I know, but now we have to prove it to an inspector who's coming here on Thursday. And if we can't, Robert rubbed his face, we could lose our operating license. Hazel felt like she'd been punched. The company was her life, her future, and a suspended license would be devastating for business. Robert, do you think this has to do with what? Hazel hesitated. Could Veronica be capable of something like this? But then she remembered her word. I have a lot of power in this city. Nothing. Let's solve this. I have all the documentation organized. She spent the day reviewing every paper, every certificate, every license. Everything was impeccable. But even so, she felt growing anxiety. When she got home, Grandma Rose immediately noticed something was wrong. What happened, sweetheart? Hazel told her about the complaint. Grandma Rose listened in silence, then sighed. This smells like persecution. I think so too, but I can't prove it. And Ian? Does he know? I haven't talked to him today. Maybe you should. Grandma, I don't want him to think I'm running to him every time I have a problem. Nonsense. If you're together, you have to share problems too. Hazel was considering calling Ian when he appeared at the door. He was visibly agitated. Hazel, we need to talk. What happened? Veronica looked for my parents today. Hazel felt her blood freeze. And she told them about us and invented some untruths. What kind of untruths? Ian hesitated. That you were trying to take financial advantage of me. That you had asked for money. That you were pregnant and trying to blackmail me. Hazel was speechless with shock. She said that? And more. She also said you had involvement with drugs, that your company was a front for illegal activities. My God! Hazel sat on the porch, stunned. She's trying to destroy my life. My parents didn't believe it. Well, my mother didn't believe it. My father was concerned. Concerned about what? About the family's reputation. About business. Ian sat beside her. Hazel, did anything else happen today? Hazel told him about the complaint at the company. As she spoke, she saw Ian's expression become increasingly somber. This isn't a coincidence. Are you sure? I am. Veronica has contacts in various public agencies. If she wants to harm your company, she can. Hazel stood up, pacing nervously on the porch. This can't be happening. She can't just destroy my life because she wants you back. She can and will try. Ian stood up too. Unless what? Unless I go back to her. Hazel stopped walking and looked at him. Is that what you want? Of course not. But if it's the only way to protect you... Stop! Hazel raised her hand. Stop right now. Hazel... No, Ian. If you're thinking of going back to her to protect me, then you don't know me at all. I know you. That's why I want to protect you. I don't need to be protected. I need to be respected. I respect you. No, you don't. If you respected me, you'd know I'd rather fight and lose than win by being protected like a helpless child. Ian was silent for a moment. What if we can't win? What if she destroys your company? Your reputation? Then we'll get up and start over. That's what people who love each other do, isn't it? Face problems together? It was the first time Hazel had spoken about love, and Ian felt like the world had stopped. Do you love me? Hazel looked directly into his eyes. I'm in love with you, Ian Bird. With the man who laughs with my grandmother, who learned paragliding with me, who washes dishes in my kitchen. Not with the heir to a fortune. Hazel, but if you're willing to abandon me at the first difficulty, then maybe Veronica is right. Maybe you're not ready for a real relationship. Ian pulled her into his arms. I love you too, and I won't abandon you. Never. Then let's fight together. How? First, we'll prove the complaint is false. Then we'll figure out how to stop Veronica. And if we can't, then we'll learn to fly for real. Because when the ground disappears from under our feet, all that's left is to fly. On Thursday, the city inspector arrived at Extreme Adventure, accompanied by a lawyer Hazel didn't know. For 3 hours, they examined every document, every piece of equipment, every certificate. Everything seems to be in order, said the inspector finally, sounding almost disappointed. Seems. Hazel couldn't contain herself. Is in order, he corrected. The complaint was unfounded. When they left, Hazel almost collapsed with relief. Robert hugged her. We got through this. Now it's about rebuilding customer trust. That night, Hazel was celebrating with Grandma Rose when Ian arrived with news. I talked to my parents today. I told them everything about Veronica, about the lies, about the complaint. And my mother was furious. Apparently, she never liked Veronica, just tolerated her because of family friendship. My father was more cautious but promised to investigate if she really used contacts to harm your company. And your sister. Carol wants to meet you officially. She said any woman who makes Veronica angry is already a saint to her. Hazel laughed. So your family doesn't hate me? My family wants to meet the woman who managed to make their most irresponsible son grow up. Hey, you're not irresponsible. I am, or I was. You made me want to be better. They were kissing when Hazel's phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello. Congratulations. You escaped this time. It was Veronica. What do you want? For you to understand this won't end here. Are you threatening me? And being realistic, Ian will get tired of you. It's a matter of time. Then why not wait for it to happen naturally? Because I don't have patience to wait for the obvious. Hazel looked at Ian, who was trying to understand the conversation. You know what, Veronica? You're right about one thing. About what? Ian might get tired of me. Any relationship can end. But if it ends, it'll be by our choice, not by your manipulation. We'll see. Yes, we'll see. But meanwhile, let me give you some advice. This obsession with a man who doesn't want you anymore isn't attractive. It's sad. Hazel hung up before Veronica could respond. Ian was looking at her with admiration. You're incredible. No, I'm just tired of being intimidated. And now we live our lives and let her live hers. But Hazel had no idea that Veronica wasn't the type to give up easily, and that her next move would be much more dangerous than a simple complaint. The following Friday, Hazel was working when she received a call from Grandma Rose. Hazel, can you come home? Something happened. What kind of thing, Grandma? It's better if you come see. Hazel asked for time off work and ran home. When she arrived, she found Grandma Rose sitting in the living room with a worried expression. On the table was an elegant envelope. This arrived for you today, said Grandma Rose. Hazel opened the envelope. Inside was an invitation printed on expensive paper. Veronica Costa has the pleasure of inviting you to a special lunch at the Harbor Club tomorrow at 1 p.m. RSVP not necessary. Your presence is expected. Hazel felt a chill. She invited me to lunch at Ian's hotel. This can't be good. It can't. Hazel looked at the invitation again. But I think I'll have to go. Why? Because I need to know what she's planning, and because I'm not the type who runs from a fight. Hazel, Grandma, I need to face this. If I don't face it now, it'll always be there. On Saturday, Hazel dressed in her best outfit, a simple but elegant navy blue dress, and headed to the Harbor Club. The restaurant was sophisticated and intimidating. Veronica was already waiting at a table near the window. She was stunning in a white dress that probably cost more than Hazel made in 3 months. Hazel, so glad you came. Veronica stood up and greeted her as if they were old friends. Veronica. Hazel sat down, keeping her guard up. You look lovely. That dress is charming. The pause before charming was deliberately condescending. Thank you. Did you want to talk about something specific? Straight to the point. I admire that. Veronica smiled. Yes, I want to talk about Ian. I figured. Did he tell you about our history? He told me you dated and it ended. Oh dear. If only it were that simple. Veronica took a photo from her purse and placed it on the table. It was a photo of Veronica and Ian at some social event. They looked like a perfect couple. This was taken 2 months ago. Hazel felt her heart stop. 2 months? But Ian said you broke up 6 months ago. We did break up, but we continued seeing each other. Ian can't completely stay away from me. Hazel looked at the photo, trying to understand. Ian looked happy, natural. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand the reality of the situation. Veronica put the photo away. Ian might be having fun with you, but he always comes back to me. It's a pattern. A pattern? He dates other women from time to time, usually when we fight, but he always comes back. Hazel felt like she was in free fall. You're lying. Am I? Then ask him about my mother's birthday party 2 months ago. Ask him about the weekend we spent in Los Angeles last month. He was working. He was with me. Hazel stood up from the table, her legs shaking. I don't believe you. You don't need to believe me. Believe him. Ask about those events. Ask why he never told you. Hazel left the restaurant without saying goodbye, her heart beating irregularly. She went straight up to the penthouse where she knew she'd find Ian. The conversation that followed was painful. Ian admitted to having been at the events with Veronica, but swore they meant nothing. Hazel felt betrayed by the omission, by the lack of transparency. But after days of reflection and an honest conversation on the beach where they had their first paragliding lesson, Ian proved his sincerity. He had sent an official statement to all families in their social circle, declaring his serious relationship with Hazel and refusing to participate in events where Veronica would be present. It was then that Veronica played her final card. The extreme adventure contract with the Bird Group was cancelled under false allegations of conflict of interest. But when Ian investigated and discovered Veronica's manipulation, he didn't hesitate to confront his parents and reverse the decision. The final blow came when Veronica, desperate, approached Grandma Rose on the street. The elderly woman, nervous about the accusations against Hazel, stumbled and fell, fracturing her hip. It was the last straw. Ian recorded a conversation with Veronica, got a restraining order, and the Bird family definitively cut all ties with her. Michael Bird offered financial support for Hazel to open her coffee shop, which she accepted as a loan under fair conditions. 3 months later, Ian surprised everyone by announcing he wanted to work for real, taking over the coordination of sustainable tourism projects. Epilogue. 6 months later. Hazel adjusted her apron bow and looked around the coffee shop that had finally become reality. Cloud 9 Coffee was written in blue letters on the storefront, a tribute to her flying dreams. The environment was welcoming, with hanging plants, comfortable armchairs, and a partial view of the ocean. "Are you nervous?" asked Ian, appearing behind her with 2 cups of coffee. "A little. What if nobody shows up?" "Impossible. Your grandma advertised to half the neighborhood." Hazel laughed. Grandma Rose, who had completely recovered from her hip fracture, was in the kitchen preparing her famous muffins. The fall had been scary, but it was also the turning point in everything. "Do you think we did the right thing?" asked Hazel, watching Ian. "About which part?" "All parts. The coffee shop, the change, everything." 3 months earlier, Ian had surprised everyone by announcing he wanted to work. Really work. He had taken over the coordination of new tourism projects for the family group, focusing on sustainable tourism and adventure sports. His first initiative had been a partnership with smaller local companies, including Extreme Adventure. "I'm sure," he said, kissing her cheek, "especially because now I wake up every day with purpose." "And what's your purpose, Mr. Bird?" "Building a real life with the woman I love." The door chime rang, and they turned to see Caroline enter with a bouquet of flowers. "Congratulations, sister-in-law," she exclaimed, hugging Hazel. "The place looks beautiful." "Thank you, and thank you for helping me with the decoration." "It was a pleasure. By the way, where's our star?" Grandma Rose appeared from the kitchen, taking off her apron. "Here I am, ready to receive the first customers." The door opened again, and Robert entered with some Extreme Adventure employees. Then came the neighborhood neighbors, Hazel's church friends, Ian's work colleagues. Within an hour, the coffee shop was full of laughter, animated conversations, and compliments for Grandma Rose's treats. "We did it," murmured Hazel to Ian as they watched the movement. "We did what?" "Created our own world." Ian pulled her to a more private corner. "Hazel, there's something I've wanted to ask you for months." "What is it?" He knelt right there, in the middle of the noisy coffee shop, and took a small box from his pocket. "Will you marry me?" The noise around them stopped. Everyone had noticed what was happening. Hazel looked at the simple but beautiful ring, then at the man kneeling in front of her, then at the people she loved around her. Grandma Rose with tears in her eyes, Caroline filming everything with her phone, Robert and friends smiling. "It's going to be a complicated life," she said finally. "It will be. Our families are very different." "They are. And you're sure you want to wake up every day in my simple world?" "I want to wake up every day in our world, which isn't simple or complicated. It's real." Hazel extended her hand. "Then yes, I want to marry you." When Ian put the ring on her finger, the coffee shop exploded in applause and shouts of joy. Grandma Rose started crying, Caroline kept filming, and Scout, who had been sleeping in a corner, woke up and started barking excitedly. "And now?" asked Hazel when the commotion died down. "Now we live happily ever after?" "I don't believe in ever after." "What do you believe in?" Hazel looked around the coffee shop, her realized dream. Then at the ring on her finger, then at the man who had learned to fly with her. "I believe in today, and in choosing every day to be here with you, building all this, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult." Ian kissed her as the last rays of sun came through the coffee shop windows, illuminating the beginning of a new story. A story without princesses and princes, without perfect endings or fairy tale worlds. A real story with real people who had learned that true love wasn't about finding someone perfect, but about choosing to build something true with someone who was worth any complication. Outside, San Diego continued its busy life. But inside Cloud9 Coffee, Hazel and Ian knew they had found something more valuable than any fairy tale. They had found a love that could fly.